Hello everyone, this is Garrett, and this is probably the greatest game ever made. I mean, looking at the competition, there really is no way that anyone could improve upon this game. It's called Cosmic Race, and you race in the cosmos. And yeah, and there's a loading screen with a character that never appears in game because it's just too cool for the rest of the game. Made by Neorex. Bling. And this is, in fact, the only game they ever made ever. So, you know that it has to be good. So, basically you have Point Time Try, which is time attack, basically. Cosmic Race, which is what we are going to be doing. Chase, and chase with two paths. Basically, it's some kind of weird multiplayer game where first one player drives and then the other player drives, and I think he has to follow the path as closely as possible or something, or maybe just has to bump into the other car, I'm not entirely sure. It's kind of vague. Scramble is another multiplayer mode where two players basically compete against each other to get as many point balloons as possible and just scramble it all around the level, and it doesn't really work. Replay, well, you can watch replays that you saved from races and stuff like that. Setup are options, not very interesting. And story, well, let's just show the story off for a moment. It's a bunch of Japanese text. And with a bunch of Japanese text, I mean, it's really fair amount of Japanese text, really. I mean, it really kind of goes on. It's talking about the VEDs, which I'm guessing are the racers in this game. There's a whole 5 of them, and we'll be going over each of them individually, and we'll be racing against 4 of them, because we will be driving the other one. And yeah, if anyone feels like translating this, I'll happily send them a comment that says, "Hello, thank you for translating this, hooray," but otherwise, don't bother, really, it's not worth it. System messages! 5 VEDs, entry now! System boot up! Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what it means either, but it goes back to the loading screen. There's a lot of loading screens in this game for some unknown reason. And it sends you back to the main menu. So, let's play some Cosmic Race. And this is probably the only racing game ever where I'm actually gonna end up having to explain the mechanics. But we'll get into that in a moment. For now, let's just enter a name. Music sounds a little bit off, but oh well. Probably because I'm recording. Yeah, it doesn't sound too perfect, but oh well. We have 5 different races. One is Cyan Square, which is driving the Borg, which looks like some sort of weird guy from the Star Fox games, really. And his left arm is completely in the wrong location. Kenjiro T, driving the Gundam, which is absolutely the most useless character in the game. I think it's the slowest. And it doesn't it doesn't have an awful lot of health either, but we'll get back into that later. Leo Clispaldo driving the Kuga, which is okay, it's nothing to really write home about, and that Leo kind of reminds me of someone from an anime I've seen once, but can't recall the name. Something, driving the Propeller, which is awesome because there's a flower on the front and a penguin on the back. How can you go wrong? And Barbecue. Yes, really. Driving the S-Lagon. No comment. But we are going to be using Cyan Square driving the Borg. This is the level select screen, only I'm using an empty memory card, so you can only see level 1. This is the map of the first level. And you might be thinking, gosh, this is not very helpful. And you are correct. So, let's go to the first level. First, we'll be seeing the current best times in this course. There's 3 courses per stage, and there are 4 stages in total. So, and every stage has this exact same time. It's always 5 minutes, even in the stages that you can't actually beat in 5 minutes, even with the quickest character, which we have selected now. And here we go. Fire on one side, Aerith on the other side of the spaceship, because it's just that awesome. And this is the point where I'm gonna have to do a little bit of explaining if you ever plan on playing the game, because else you might get a little bit confused. Basically, R1 makes you drive forward and L1 is brake. It's not too difficult, but oh well, there we go. Then comes the little silly part, which is that if you press X, or I'm probably gonna get this wrong, I'm not good with PlayStation controllers, but if you press square and circle, you go left and right. Yeah. If you go left and right with the D-pad, you do this kind of strafing maneuver, which you do need to do for the sharper turns, but we'll get into that later. Pressing X and triangle makes you go up and down kind of slowly, but when you combine it with pressing up and down on the D-pad, it'll make you go up and down pretty quickly. Like I said, if you hold left and I believe it's square or circle, I have absolutely no idea. I really am. I'm stuck with the PlayStation controller. Let's just keep it at that. But if you press both those buttons, you do a pretty sharp turn, and you pretty much need to know this, otherwise you will basically not make it through the later stages. Let's see, what else is there? To the left, to the top left, you can see that I'm currently first place. It says first, so yeah, first place. It shows the elapsed time and it says view B at the moment. There's also view C if you press the select button. At least I think it's the select button. I hope it's the select button, else I'm going to be horribly wrong. But yeah, and that makes you go into this kind of this first-person view mode, basically. And if you press select again, it will send you to view A, which is some sort of... it kind of shows it from the side. It's really weird, and I just generally use view B because it's less confusing. Most of the obstacles on the level, like the rocks and stuff like that, you can just fly through because it has no collision detection, because this game is too awesome for collision detection. On the bottom left, it shows your health, your shield, I think. I'm guessing that's what SLD stands for. I'm afraid I don't have a copy of the manual. And it's not exactly easy to find either. And, well, as expected, if you bump into things, your shield will lower. And if it reaches 0, it will be game over and you have to restart the race. Which is not very fun, because the races in this game are quite long. On the bottom of the screen, you can see a little progress bar that currently says 247 of 324, and that is some sort of weird estimated number to show how much longer you're going to be in this hellhole. And the speed is located to your right at the 396 FPS. I'm guessing it stands for flies per second. I have absolutely no idea. The radar on the top right is completely useless, pretty much, because... well, I'm gonna go into the how to gain speed, basically, in a moment. And the 42 on the top of the screen is... well, if you go off of the stage, that timer will start counting down. And the moment it reaches 0, it will be game over and you have to restart the race once again. Which is really annoying, so not really recommended to get the timer run to 0. And we should almost be at the end of the first level. You have to hit the goal. You can't drive past it, you have to hit the goal. Look at the pretty white spinning particles over there. And it says, goal! Delicious. Delicious indeed. And from that point, you can either try again, which I really don't recommend, by pressing the start button, save rank with the circle button, which basically is a save game. You can watch a replay, which you cannot skip the moment you start watching it, so don't do that ever. Save the replay if you want to, but why would you ever want to? And go to the next game by pressing the X button, which is what we'll be doing now. And it shows you that we have in fact beaten the first time on the stage, which is very rare indeed. And then we go on to the second stage, which looks pretty much exactly the same. So I mentioned I was going to talk about the speed system in this game. As you may have noticed, there are some really weird transparent grey blech all over the stage. And spikes on the sides, basically. What you need to do is be as close to the middle as possible. And that's how you get the highest possible speed in this game. And it's kind of vague, really, because sometimes you get a higher speed than other times, and in stage 4 you will pretty much go max speed constantly for some unknown reason, but we'll get into that at stage 4, I guess. I hope I said stage 4 twice, because I meant to say stage 4 twice, I don't really remember, but that's not important right now. Also, there's a little arrow underneath the radar that kinda shows you where you need to go, but it's not very good at it, so try not to depend on it too much. Try to just look at the screen and, well, hope you see the turns. After a while it actually gets kind of difficult to see every turn, but we'll see more of that later. So, I think that was pretty much all the game mechanics that this game has to offer. I think what they were kind of going for is a really... well, they were trying to make something like F-Zero, but failed really quite horribly at it, because, well, as I mentioned before, the controls are weird. They are really something to get used to, and if you try to use normal racing game controls, you will just crash into every mountain you find. And that's kind of saddening, so try not to do that. You can kind of make shortcuts by driving off of the stage and coming in at a later point trying to see where you need to go with the radar. But you lose a lot of speed by going off of the track, so in the end it really doesn't make too much of a difference. Which is kind of a shame, because it would be a nice little feature to have, but sadly no. Nope, let go of the accelerate button for a moment. Well, there are 5 different characters, as I mentioned before. Barbecue is one of the slower characters, the really big one. Nope, that kind of drives a mutated looking pineapple, as Big Bang Blitz put it. But he has 100, and he starts off every stage with 120 health, basically, and this one starts off at 80, which I'm pretty sure is the lowest amount of any driver, but this guy drives a maximum of around 400 most of the time, whereas Barbecue drives about 380 most of the time. And that may not seem like a large difference, but if you consider that every stage takes at least several minutes to complete, in the end the difference in distance between you and your opponent are really quite high when you compare them to each other. So I personally prefer to go with this one simply for the little bit of extra speed, and you just have to be a little careful, and stage 3 is going to be absolute horror, basically. To be frank, so is stage 2, but stage 4 is easier, so whatever you like best, really. But in the end, it's all a jumbled mess. They made this game pretty much by taking the PlayStation Development Kit thing, and pretty much just using all the default models for things and stuff like that, so this is basically what you end up with once you do that. It doesn't look very good at all. This is why they make different textures for games, because it looks pretty bad. Although World 2, I have to admit, World 2 is definitely my favorite world of this little game here, and yes, I'm just gonna call it a little game now, but World 2 is definitely my favorite, and you will be seeing why. It's just the most amazing thing ever made, and apparently we made it to the end of the 2nd level already. I guess I'm gonna ramble on more about this game than I originally anticipated. Words are difficult. I need speak time now. Yes.